Welcome to the new video. I hope you liked the past ones and you did not forget to write your opinion under the video. My name is Jimmy. We are starting. Story 1 from user deleted. Our grandma died on the 4th of July when my sister was 5. We were visiting our uncle about an hour north of grandma's house, and our house was an hour further south of hers. So on our way home from UNC's, we were supposed to stop and see grandma. We got the call about an hour before we were supposed to leave. It was pretty unexpected. She was relatively young and in seemingly good health. So my stepdad completely lost it. His mom. I've never seen him cry, before or since, in the 20 years I've known him. But there he was, doubled over on the lawn, wailing. When he finally stopped, my sister looked at him and said, "It's okay, Dad. Now we don't have to stop on the way home. I'm pretty tired anyway." Everyone laughed until we cried. Also, when my best friend's dad died about a year later, my sister drew her this elaborate card with a picture of my friend and her dad on the front, complete with rainbows and their dog, the works. And on the inside, it said simply, "Sorry, your dad is dead." I don't know why it was so funny, but my friend couldn't stop laughing when she opened it. My sister is the death comedy magician. Story 2 from user Benjamin Herberger. I've told this before, but here it goes. I was in my freshman year of college when my mother died in the most unexpected and tragic way. When I was at her funeral, this old kind of goofy cousin of hers was sitting behind me in church. He's a big guy, probably in his 60s, and I suspect he might not be operating at full capacity, if you know what I mean. I had met him only once before, so it's not like he is close to my family in any sort of way. But he's just an odd character, so he's sitting right behind me and the choir starts singing. This dupe then thinks it's a great idea to start singing along, and I mean full-blown Pavarotti-type high-volume singing. No one else was. Now, this was so outrageously hilarious that I couldn't help it. I put my head down and started laughing uncontrollably. My sister next to me started comforting me because she thought I was crying. She puts her arm around me and rubs my arm while whispering, "It's okay." By this point, I was covering my face, hoping no one realized that I was laughing hysterically. The muffled sounds probably seemed like crying due to the context, but I was laughing. At my mother's funeral. That stupid moment actually made that trash day a little bit better. Story 3 from user Katona. The following scenario was by far the strongest I have ever had to try in my life not to laugh. So, I work the front desk at a hotel. A woman comes to check in and has her son with her, who is mentally disabled. He looks to be about 10 years old, but with an obviously lower than normal intellect and mental age. He has a stuffed horse with him that he is lovingly clutching when he walks in. He proceeds to quite calmly go over and obediently sit on the couch while his mother comes to the desk. I start to go about the process of checking her into the hotel when suddenly the son calls for his mom's attention. He starts yelling, "Mom, look, look, look," in his underdeveloped manner of speaking. I just happened to, oh God, I should have kept my eyes down, look up to see that the boy has taken his stuffed horse and is making it hump the arm of the couch. This is pretty funny, but I'm an expert at this, and I maintain composure and keep moving along, checking her in. The mother has ignored him so far and has not noticed his stuffed horse doing the nasty with the furniture yet. It's at this point that he yells out, "Mom, Mom, look! He's doing what you told me not to do. He's doing it, Mom! What you told me not to do!" I'm absolutely breaking at the seams now. My mouth is twitching, trying so hard not to laugh. He continues, the stuffed horse now being made to hump that couch ever more furiously. "Mom, look, is he gonna get in trouble? He's doing it, not me. He's doing that bad thing. Remember? That thing you told me not to do?" I snapped. I could no longer hold it in, and I just burst out laughing uncontrollably. His mother had actually not yet turned around to acknowledge what he was trying to show her, so as of yet had no idea. When I finally burst out laughing, she turned and was obviously horrified. She turned back to me with a face as bright red as a fire engine and hurriedly got her room's keys and ushered him away as swiftly as possible. All while the son is still asking her if the stuffed horse is going to get in trouble like he did. I felt so bad for laughing and for her embarrassment, but that was just too much. Story 4 from user Ramses the Pigeon. Several years ago, I was brought along to a small gathering of strangers by a friend who didn't want to make an appearance on her own. The event was ostensibly being held as a casual get-together, After all, I wouldn't have attended otherwise. But less than half an hour after I'd been introduced to everyone, the overall atmosphere took a turn for much heavier territory. We had been discussing some forgettable topic or another and enjoying a few drinks, when the hostess all but jumped into the first moment of silence. So, my sister just had a miscarriage. The statement was uttered with absolutely no warning or transition from the subject at hand, as though it had been trying to force its way out of the woman's mind for some time, and needless to say, everyone seemed a little bit shocked by it. As soon as they recovered, though, each attendee immediately started offering their condolences, leaving me to feel like the odd man out in what was obviously a very sensitive situation. Given that I had only met most of the assembled people mere minutes prior, I figured that the best course of action was to make myself as unobtrusive as possible, so I sat back and pretended to be incredibly interested in my wine glass. It was then that I saw a young child come trundling into the living room with a collection of tiny stuffed animals clutched in her hands. At first, nobody paid much attention to the toddler's arrival. After a few seconds, though, she approached her mother and let loose with a string of whiny gibberish. The hostess seemed to understand what was being said and responded with a dismissive tone, not unlike one that I remembered from my own childhood. "Not right now, honey," the woman whispered. "Go play by yourself for a little while." The child didn't seem to like this answer, replying as she did with a scowl that hinted at an oncoming tantrum. "I'll come check on you soon," continued the hostess. "Right now, Mommy is busy with her friends. Go play." The kid seemed ready to scream. She threw her stuffed toys down on the floor and stomped her foot, but a gentle push from her mother sent the girl away before anything worse could occur. The conversation amongst the adults immediately resumed, and I watched with widening eyes as the child snatched up one of her belongings, stormed off, and entered the doorway leading to the restroom. A few seconds later, I heard an ominous flushing noise. It didn't take much thought to figure out what had happened, and I quickly fought to suppress the grin that started working its way across my face. That proved to be incredibly different, however, when the toddler came back into the living room, selected another of her toys, then went through the entire routine again. By the time that I heard the second flushing sound, I was nearly overcome by giggling fits, and throughout the whole thing, the people around me were speaking in low tones about the most horrific loss that an expecting mother could endure. My friend eventually noticed my hysteria, and I hurriedly murmured an explanation, as best I could, through my poorly concealed snorts of laughter. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. The young woman watched as the little girl returned for a third toy, her face still a mask of resentment, made her way back to the bathroom door, and disappeared. I fought to keep from bursting out into tears of merriment when still a third flush became audible. Story 5 from user Stinky1. Okay, for some weird reason, my brother and I could not stop laughing when we had to go pick out the casket for our mother's funeral. In all fairness, my brother started it. Our other older brother and sister were with us, and they kept looking at us too, like, "Behave." The funeral director was this tall, pale, skinny guy in an ill-fitting suit, the pants of which were a good 2 inches too short. He was acting way too schmaltzy and speaking in dulcet tones. He took us into this room, sat down at his desk, and there was a light switch behind him with a red light. My brother and I looked at the light switch, and then at each other. Well, that made us both start giggling, and that pissed off our older sister. Then the director guy pressed the light switch, and, I swear, a door panel opened up into this huge room, the size of a gym, full of caskets. This totally set us off. We tried to one-up each other every minute or two. We walked past a bronze casket, and my brother said, "Do you have any gold caskets? Our mother liked gold." Interrupted and said, "When Mom had her colors done, they said she was a winter. That means she can be buried only in silver tones." As we walked past an especially hideous pink casket, I blurted out, "She'd die if we buried her in that." Our older sister and brother, who were acting all were so mature, fell out laughing, and my sister said, "She's already dead." Then we laughed again, really loud and snorty, and the funeral director looked nervous as hell. Jeez. It made me wonder if no one had ever laughed there before. I don't remember what casket we finally picked out, but Mom didn't clash with it, whatever it was. Oh, in case you're wondering, We loved Mom like crazy. She laughed at weird occasions all the time with us. It was sort of poetic that we'd laugh like that when she died. Story 6 from user Mus Maximus. Bit of backstory. I play pen and paper RPGs. I have a thing for feelies, or physical documents and objects that represent the game in the real world. One of these for a one-shot horror game was a list of inmates at an asylum. I ran out of imagination halfway through and began just writing down the first words that came to my head. Thus the creation of the venerable Beep Feep, Teenage Deviant. I have no idea why, but just thinking of that name gives me the giggles. I'm giggling now. Anyway, several months later, I'm on the subway when the name of Beep Feep wanders past my conscious thought for no reason. I immediately start giggling, but I try to control it, which didn't work at all. I'm trying all my tricks here, punching myself in the leg, biting my bottom lip, but none of it is working. I'm still laughing like an idiot because Beep Feep is somehow incorrigibly hilarious to me. This is when I realize that I am staring at someone, specifically at a very surly-looking Indian guy sitting across from me. For the last 5 minutes, I have been maintaining unknowing eye contact with this man while laughing and hitting myself. He is getting increasingly, visibly angry, which my already demented brain parses as being extra hilarious, resulting in a downward spiral of laughter, hitting anger. He eventually stomps off the train in a huff, and I just lose it. I am dying. I don't miss my stop, but it's close. And now somewhere in the city there's a guy with a story of being accosted by a self-abusive maniac on the Bloor-Danforth line. Story 7 from user Throwaway, Can't See. I was at my godfather's funeral. He was high up in government, so there were lots of very official and high-ranking people there. But there was also the people like my dad, who were his best friends. Some he had grown up with and went to uni with. Dad grew up with him but didn't go to uni. Anyway, my dad's friend Phil tells this story about how when he and my godfather first became friends, my godfather walked into the pub Phil was in. They had never met before, but somehow this meeting had been arranged. Put his Mercedes keys in the bar and ordered some expensive drink, and Phil thought, I'm not going to get on with this guy. They got drunk together and ended up singing Meatloaf's Bat Out of Hell, and that event perfectly summed up my godfather. So just before they take his coffin out of the church, they start playing Bat Out of Hell, and I look at my dad, who was sat at the front of the church. He turns around with a look of, don't you dare, and I burst out laughing. I couldn't stop. This just summed up my godfather so well, and was how I remembered him as a less strict, more fun version of my dad. As the coffin was being picked up, I had to leave the church through a side door. When I've calmed down, I go out to see it being lowered. Later, all my godfather's friends meet at the local pub, and Phil comes up to me and says, you know everyone could hear you, even after you left. Some people outside were going, he shouldn't have been invited if he doesn't have respect. I stuck up for you and told them you were his godson and had every right to remember him your way, mainly because I was about to burst out laughing myself, and I just started laughing again. Story 8 from user Imgur. Okay, not me, but my mate from vet school was seeing Prac around Christmas time. Called out to a euthanasia of an old Labrador with the family at home, and he goes into the house with the vet. Beautiful scene of an old dog sleeping by the Christmas tree, kids and family around it with grandma sitting in a chair nearby. The vet places the intravenous catheter and gives the standard speech to the family. There may be some movement or noises, sometimes they go to the toilet, etc. He injects the euthanasia solution and the dog passes away peacefully, right before having diarrhea all over the vet's shoes. He jumps at the shock of it and starts skittering over the hardwood floors, made slippery as an ice rink by all the trash, lubing them up. He starts losing his balance and goes down, grabbing the nearest thing for support. Unfortunately, this is the Christmas tree, and he pulls the whole thing down on top of himself and the dog right into the puddle of trash. Family starts losing it. Kids screaming hysterically. Mum sobbing. My friend was laughing so hard he had to leave the house and was too embarrassed to go back in. The vet came out 20 minutes later covered in trash and told him never to tell anybody. Thanks to everyone who watched to the end. See you in the next video today. Bye-bye.